it's Passover time again, you guys, and I'm so excited to get to be sharing some extra Passover tips for you guys. We are doing it virtually again, which we would rather be having the celebration all together, but this is kind of a way that we can stay together while also doing it at home. So maybe some of you guys don't really know how all this got started at Moore, and so just want to share a little bit of history with you guys. We've been doing it here. This would be our 15th Passover, and so, which is incredible. But all this years back, it just was stirred in my heart. God had really placed Passover on my heart years before I ever even came to Moore Church. And, it was such a gift to me. And I wanted so badly to share that with the body that I belong to, my home, my family, my extended family. Because I had been doing it in my own house for a little while. And so I went to Daryl and I said, hey, Daryl, we really should have Passover at Moore. And he said, make it happen. And so we did. And that first year, it was what we would consider small now. We only had 77 people, but it was such a beautiful time and we had so much fun, and we got to learn so much about what Passover really means and how God has been foretelling from the very beginning about the blood of the lamb that would cover us and cause death to pass over us. And so we want to share that with as many people as possible. And since we're in a virtual world now, we're going to bring it to you guys this way. And so the first thing we want to do, I just want to start with sharing some recipes with you guys and show y'all how to make some of the things that we traditionally eat at Moore when we celebrate Seder. So that's where we're going to start. We're going to start with the soup. So the soup that we're going to make doesn't really have a fancy name or anything special like that. It's chicken and matzoh ball soup. Now matzah is actually a Jewish grain they use for a whole lot of things, and so matzah is something you're going to have to get in the specialty section at your grocery store. But it's chicken and matzoh ball soup. We're going to start by cutting the onions. So you're going to want 3 medium to large onions for 1 pot of soup. And we're going to go through all of the ingredients in here, so don't worry about that. But you're going to want 3 medium to large onions. We like to use yellow onions. Those are really the best for this soup. So I'm going to go ahead, of course, then peel the onion. Just the outer layer. And don't get hung up on it being perfect or whatever. You really just want to have some slices of onion. About 1/8 of an onion or so is how you want to cut it. It's not really all that important about that part. So you'll notice in the recipe that we've linked below that in the original recipe you want to put your onions and then your chicken. And that is fine, but we also want to show you that you can put your onions and carrots and chicken all at one time, or you can come back and put your carrots in later if you want to. I like to put the onions and the carrots in together. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to use 3 carrots, pretty good sized carrots. You want to use anywhere from 2 to 4 carrots, whatever your taste is. I like to make sure everybody has carrots in their soup, so I'm going to use 3 carrots this time. So now that we've got our onions in our stock pot, we want to go to our chicken, and it's going to have, all the parts on the inside. And so you can leave them in, but if there is a bag, you want to make sure that it's not like a paper bag or something, and go ahead and take them out. And you just want the whole thing in the chicken. In the pot. In the chicken. Take the whole chicken into the pot. So now we're going to just put the chicken in the pot just like it is. Okay, so now we have our carrots and onions and chicken in the pot. And the next thing you want is your water, of course, because you've got to have your liquid. On the recipe, you'll notice that it calls for a certain amount of quarts. But I really don't want anybody to get hung up on how many quarts and how many gallons and all of that kind of business in cups. Most important thing to remember is cover your chicken with your water. Just make sure that there's enough water that covers your chicken. You're going to want to keep it at that level so that your chicken doesn't get dried out. Okay, so now that we have our chicken and onions and carrots in the pot, we want to just take that to the stove and bring it to a boil. So you can just go ahead and set it on high and go ahead and bring that to a boil. Then you want to reduce it a little bit and just let it boil for about 2 to 3 hours. After that, you're going to come back and you're going to put in your bay leaf and your chicken bouillon. You can use 2 or 3 of these. 3 is what the recipe calls for. Of course, you can always change that to your taste. The recipe also calls for 1 bay leaf. I usually put 2 or 3 just because I like the flavor that it adds to the soup. So you're also going to want to put about 3 cloves of garlic. I like to use pretty big cloves. That's my preference. And so you're going to go ahead and just go and chop that up. Just peel it. You don't really need to cut it into any pieces or anything like that. And then just put it into your pot. So now that we have everything in the pot and we've got it on the stove and it's going to boil, I just want to mention that you can also do this in a crock pot. If you want to put it all in a crock pot, you can just do that and cover it, and you want to cook it for about 10 hours. So you would maybe do on high for an hour and low on 9 hours. But at that point, you can just put a lid on it, set it, forget it, and move on. If you're going to go ahead and cook it on the stove, then you want to be aware that you're going to want to skim the foam off the top as necessary. You don't have to be totally on top of it, but you'll want to do that just for to help the cooking process. Okay, so you've been cooking your chicken all night by now, and it's time to debone your chicken and get rid of all of the stuff you don't want in your soup. And I have a best deboning chicken pal that I want to help me do this part. So please welcome Sherry Moore, who is going to help me to do that. She has helped me every year since we started this, and I can't imagine making chicken soup without her. So anyways, here we go. We're going to get ready to do that. So I'm going to just show you guys how we normally debone the chicken. This is our method, and it's worked really great for such a long time that, you know, don't fix what's not broken.
All right, so once you remove the chicken from the pot, try not to spread it around too much. That way the bones will stay in alignment and it's easier to get out. Then you're going to come back to your pot and you're going to use your slotted spoon, and you're going to go through and see if there's any pieces of chicken still in there or any bones, and just be real methodical about it. Go slow, because it is real easy for the smaller bones just to get lost in there.
Yeah.
And then once you've gone through it, then we can move over to the chicken.
So now we're going to get ready to take out all the bones from the chicken. At this point, you're going to move the bones to one section, whether it be your trash can or we like to have an extra cookie sheet next to us that we can put the bones on. Anything that we don't want to put back in the soup. We find that it's super easy to take the pieces of chicken and take the stuff off of it, and then, immediately kind of just shred the chicken and put it right back in the pot. So here's one we did in a crock pot beforehand so that we could go ahead and show you this step, and everything was already cooked. It's the magic of television. So now that you have cooked the soup and deboned the soup and you've got all the meat back into your pot and all your vegetables, the next thing you're going to want to do is add your dill and your parsley to the soup. So I like to use fresh dill, it's the best. And fresh parsley. Of course, fresh is always better. So now we're just gonna chop that up, and then we're gonna add that to the soup. Okay, so the next thing we want to talk about is how to make our matzo balls for the soup. And I want to say, first of all, that with the ingredients, you're gonna need to have 6 eggs. You're gonna need to have a cup of the matzo meal. You're going to need to have some salt and pepper. Also, you're going to want to have margarine. For Passover, we really want to stay away from dairy as much as possible. Dairy is not kosher for Passover, so we're going to use margarine. You can also use olive oil or avocado oil. Both work really great in this recipe as well. So now we're gonna separate the eggs. You want to have your whites in your bigger bowl and your yolks in a smaller bowl. So now we're gonna get ready to make our matzo balls. And we have our 6 egg yolks and our 6 egg whites. And to our egg yolks, we're going to add about a teaspoon of salt. And then we're going to add about 1/8 of a teaspoon of pepper. Of course, do it to your taste. If you like it a little more salty, add a little bit more salt. Then we're gonna do our 2 tablespoons of oil or margarine to our egg yolks. And then we're gonna go ahead and beat these until they're light and the whites until they are fluffy and stiff. Okay, so now that we have our whites and our yolks all beat, we're going to add the yolks to our whites. So we just want to fold those together. So now we're going to add the matzo meal into our egg white and yolk mixture. It's been folded in, and you want to just gradually add that in. You can do it spoonful by spoonful, or you can sprinkle it in like I'm gonna do here. So now that we have all of our matzo ingredients mixed together, we're gonna stick this in the refrigerator for at least an hour. You can leave it in there overnight or whatever, but you definitely want to leave it for at least 1 hour before you begin to make the balls. So now that you've had your matzo mixture in the refrigerator for an hour, it's time to make matzo balls. We love to use old egg cartons to hold our matzo balls in until we're gonna put them in the soup. So you'll wanna fill that back up with your matzo balls and stick that in the refrigerator and keep it in your refrigerator until you're ready to put it in your soup. And now I'm gonna call Sherry back over so she can help me make the matzo balls. So much fun. Come on, Sherry. So the first thing that you wanna do is wet your hands because it will stick to you badly if you do not. So wet your hands and then we're gonna make some balls.
Okay.
And then you just want to make them about walnut size. Or you can make them bigger or smaller if you decide that you want them that way. But here we go is a matzo ball. That's that. That's that. So when you put it in the refrigerator, it's going to look like this. When you take it out of the refrigerator, it's going to be a lot darker and a lot more firm, and that's going to make it possible for you to make the matzo balls.
Now that you're done making your matzo balls, you're going to want to add that to your soup and let them cook for 30 minutes.
So now we have homemade matzo ball soup, and it's time for Passover. Let's give this a little bit of a taste. Perfect.